Hello there and welcome to the Big Q, where we bridge the gap to your leaders. Today I have the pleasure of speaking to the Executive Director of the East Africa Business Council, Ms. Lilian Awinja. Thank you very much, Madam, for making time to be with us. And welcome to the Big Q.
Thank you.
So with the Big Q, what we do is normally ask lots of questions from viewers and of course from the social media platforms where we get lots of questions. And the first question was the average contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP of the EAC is about 10%. Yes. But it's planned that this contribution will raise to about 25% in 2032.
Yes.
But at the same time, we still want to see the value of local content raise up to 40%, yet we're at 8%. Is this really achievable, or is it one of the dreams that we have for the East African region?
As a private sector, we believe this is achievable if we do what it takes for that to happen. And we have seen a lot of commitment from the governments. They themselves have pronounced themselves that they want to industrialize East Africa by 2032. Mm-hmm. The East African Community Industrialization Strategy, which is up to 2032, was developed at the technical level, passed by the Sectoral Council, passed by Council of Ministers, and then approved by the heads of state. So it comes out as a document that is owned by the community. So we see a dedication at the highest level. We see very good political will. What we need to do is translate that good political will into action. And the action needs to take place now. So we need very decisive actions at regional level, which then can be implemented at the national level. So strategic policies that will ensure we get there. For example, the local content that we are talking about and has been a topic in this manufacturing summit is to ensure that East Africans buy what we produce. So we must produce what we consume and consume what we produce. Not just the people themselves, but even the governments. The government is a very big buyer. So we expect that in order to get to that objective by 2032, one of the decisions we need the governments to make is to source locally. So we need all the uniforms used by the uniformed team, the police, the army, the hospitals, the schools to be sourced locally. Yes. Can we stitch those uniforms locally? That will develop the cotton, textiles and apparel sector. What do we need to do? Set up the industries and stitch the garments locally.
But one would say that, of course, brings out the fear of protection and is, we want to protect our own. Okay, currently in Rwanda we have the Made in Rwanda. I'm sure in Kenya we have Made in Kenya, projects that are running. But now we want to protect what's ours. We want to protect our Made in Rwanda products. We want this to take us back to making us selfish and not wanting to share across the borders.
No, we are not promoting the protectionism. We are promoting locally produced. So by local we mean East Africa. So we need the governments, the policymakers to move beyond saying buy Rwanda, build Rwanda, and say buy East Africa, build East Africa. So a product that is made in any of the East African countries is good enough for the consumption of the people of East Africa.
So you believe the regional local content policy will be a solution to helping us reach the achievements of by 2032 rather?
Yes, sure. Because once we create the demand, we say we need you to supply us. The industries will see the need to expand, to invest in expansion programs that will allow them to be able to supply those needs. If we, for example, we have the mega projects. We are building the standard gauge railway. As a business council, we have been saying we want to supply the materials for the standard gauge railway locally.
But do we have them?
We have them. We may not be able to supply the full amount of materials that is required, but we are saying, let the government say the first 40% will be supplied locally. And then beyond that, we can source from elsewhere if we are not able to supply what is required beyond the 40%. Rwanda is building an international airport, for example. I would like the government of Rwanda to say, we need this much steel for this. We need aluminium, we need cement. Let Simerwa provide that cement. And beyond Simerwa, have the other companies from East Africa supply the cement that will build the airport in
the
Rwanda.
Other issue that has been rising, of course, with the production of local content has been the price, most people complain that the local produced products are expensive compared to China, compared to India and other places. Do you think it is right to say that we are producing, yes, but it is expensive? Maybe let's just stick to the Asian countries for a bit before we can, you know, moderate our prices so it's affordable for everyone in the region.
We can make it affordable. It is true the cost of production is very high, which translates in high prices.
Definitely.
And those are the issues we have been handling at the Manufacturing Summit. Most of that cost is from the cost of inputs. So what is the cost of power? What is the cost of labor, water, and other amenities? What do we require for manufacturing? And one of the solutions is to have a tariff structure in power production, which is a very major input. Power supply should have a tariff structure that looks at the amount of power that is consumed. So if a factory is consuming a very large amount of power, ideally they should pay a lower rate compared to households that are buying cheaply. I mean, they are buying less power. So factories should be provided power at a cheaper rate because they are buying in bulk. Yes.
One Kenneth says that the East African Customs Union and the Common Market Protocol is facing challenges, something that has impacted the growth of the manufacturing sector. Are we rushing? Our Customs Union and Common Market Protocol is still facing challenges, yet we claim that we want to move ahead. Are we rushing this?
I think our industrialization must go hand in hand with the implementation of the Customs Union, the Common Market. Why are they facing challenges? It's more than 15 years since we started implementation of the Customs Union Protocol. Why do we still have problems? We need free circulation of goods across the region. We need to implement what we have agreed to. The commitments we have made at the regional level must be adhered to. They should be implemented. And goods that are produced in East Africa should not be discriminated against. They should be given preferential treatment in the whole region. And they should circulate freely. And we should encourage East Africans to utilize those products.
But why do you think the common external tariff has not been working for a long time? It hasn't achieved its desired, you know.
I think it's in discipline because we agree together that the CET is going to be 25% and the next day the governments bring in a stay of application. Why are we doing that? There's too much duty remission in the region. We need to agree. That's why we have now the comprehensive review. We need to review the CET, look at the sensitivities, look at the different developments across the region, the growth in capacities for production across the region, and then set a CET rate that we can all implement without deviating from what we have agreed.
Do you think
that will help
have
us?
Sanctions then? We have sanctions and say you're not, you know, a particular country is not doing what it should be. We need to move. I mean, we currently really need to move. Like you've said, 15 years, common market, you know, customs union has been there. We want to grow, but we're still taking a tortoise pace, if I should say so.
Yeah, and I think we need very high strategic decisions.
Yes.
Because if we look at the Northern Corridor, which was around for a few years, and I'm not sure what happened to it, but there was a lot of commitment from the highest level. So the heads of state would come and ask the ministers, we are supposed to implement this and that and that. Can you give us an update? We need to see the same at the EAC level. The summits need to be much more strict. Find out what is happening with decisions that have been made that have taken so long, they have not been implemented at council level and at the other levels. So we need all of us to decide that as East Africa, we have made a commitment to move forward together. Let's do it.
Faith says the issue of standardization has been raised. Our products are yet to be respected or rather accepted, not only in the region but globally. What should we do to be recognized? What should we do to understand, to see that our products are well standardized to international markets?
I think that is not true. Our products are standardized. You know, the bureaus of standards work with ISO, the International Standards Organization. There is the African Standards Organization, ARSO, and our standards are actually benchmarked on standards from UK, from America. I think our standards are high enough. And as a region, in terms of standards, we don't have much problems. We have a problem with technical regulations, for example, the labeling, of products, the volumes. So we need to harmonize that and move forward. Otherwise, with standards, there is recognition of the bureau's mark by each of the other bureaus. So they recognize the mark of the other bureau in the other country, and then goods are able to move freely in the region. So in that area, not so much problems, but we have a problem with food, cosmetics, drugs. That section still a problem because we still have to retest. Why? Because we don't have a regional technical regulations framework, and that's what we are asking for. Formulate the regional framework, then implement it at national level, which makes it easy now to recognize each other because it is done.
That is true.
Yes.
And one also asked the role of the diaspora. Just yesterday in the summit, we talked so much about the role of the diaspora. Are they doing enough to ensure that the region is growing?
I think the diaspora are not doing enough. There is some money coming into the region, but most of it is going into family consumption, and most of them, as we heard yesterday, have gone into real estate, investment in real estate. And I think I understand where they're coming from. Perhaps it is very difficult to do something back home when you're not there. In Africa, we have it's very difficult to get people who can run a company on your behalf and do it very well in your absence. So the diaspora may not be able, may be fearing that. But we need to improve the standards and then provide them an avenue. How can they do it? We need to create partnerships with those that are best in East Africa, that the diaspora can find partners to work with back home. They can bring money and find incentives. Plus, sectors, they need to know which sectors can they invest in, where are the opportunities.
But who gives them that platform? Who should make that framework for them to say, when you come back home, you can invest not only in real estate, there's also this sector, agriculture, there's food, there's this, something.
Yes, we are starting to do that. It hasn't been very prominently done. There are diaspora associations that exist. It's not clear whether they've been getting that information, but as a community, we, the Business Council, working with the East African community, are setting up a diaspora desk. We expect to provide information to diaspora, identify the sectors which they can invest in, and work with the national governments and investment authorities to give them incentives, see how we can work with them, with the local banks, for further financing, so that they can be able to bring money back home and channel it through the banks and find the opportunities to invest.
Well, we do take a short break right now, but when we come back, we still keep talking to Lilian Awinja, who is the Executive Director for the East Africa Business Council, and she dives into some of the business challenges that the East African region is facing currently. Do keep it a big Q. Welcome back, and as I mentioned earlier, we are talking about the East African Business Council and what they're doing to see that the challenges in the region are a bit evaded, but also being touched on to see how we can move forward as a region. Now, one asks, the inter-trade continues to be a very big issue, especially because of infrastructure. Is infrastructure still a challenge when it comes to the inter-trade?
I think infrastructure has been a challenge for a very long time, and we've been calling for improved infrastructure. But I think there's a very good response from the governments. We know that each of the partner states is working on a standard gauge railway. Yes. We expect the standard gauge railways that are being set up across the region to improve transportation of goods, ease the pressure on the roads, and we also expect, there has been funding from the Africa Development Bank and the World Bank to improve the road network in the region. So the roads connecting the partner states have been improved. There has been the support from Trademark East Africa to set up the one-stop border posts, which working jointly with the governments and the ministries of EAC Affairs and Roads and Public Works. They have set up the one-stop border posts. They have provided us an opportunity to have clearance, easy clearance, both countries staying on one side, and easy entry and exit at the borders. So the transportation is expected to get easier and better. The road network is being developed, but there is also improvements at the ports. So goods are able to be cleared within the shortest time possible. The ports are operating 24 hours, so the infrastructure is really getting better. I think both ports, Dar es Salaam and Mombasa, are really doing well. But we have a problem with air transport. There are national carriers we are working
Yes.
with, but the cost is still high.
Yeah.
The connectivity is still not so good. There is an initiative at the EAC level to bring up, to put in place the regulations, the regional regulations on air transport. But there is one contentious issue on ownership of the air operators. So we are asking the partner states to expedite, finalize the regulations. It's an issue of give and take. So instead of 51%, perhaps we say 30%, so that we finalize and allow air transport liberalization to take place, and to make it easier for business people to move across the region.
But do you feel we have enough information, especially because the next question was going to be the findings of the study of the costs and the benefits of the open skies in the East African community? Of course, one of the factors contributing to the slow take-up of the Yamoussoukro decision principles is lack of clear and specific information regarding the impacts of enacting, these. Do you think we're giving enough are you giving the governments enough information on this?
Yeah, that's why we carried out this study. And this is the second study for EABC to carry out. And we always share with the members, the government, the partner states, and the EAC Secretariat. The information is all in these studies, that if we liberalize, this will be the impact. There will be disadvantages and advantages. This particular study is very clear that there will be some losers, but that will be in the short term. In the long term, it will stabilize because of there will be increased connectivity, increased frequencies, increased traffic, which means you recoup what you have lost because of the liberalization. So we expect the traffic to increase as we liberalize the EAC airspace.
So basically it's a give and take.
It's a give and take, yes. And governments should not be afraid. Even the issue of taxation, most of the cost of the air ticket is in the taxes. But if governments think about it critically, they'll see that there are other ways to recoup that. We can expand the tax base. Instead of just focusing on the air ticket, we can look at other services at the airport that can be taxed, and we get that money back.
Now, a report by FAO indicates that women small-scale traders are not promoted enough. What are you doing, as a council to ensure that these small women traders feel, they're part of the growth of the region?
I think it is true. There are a lot of problems, a lot of impediments to women in business or women in trade across the region. They face a lot of challenges trying to move across the region and take advantage of what is going on. One of the problems is also lack of information. So as a business council, we have a platform on women in business. There's a coordinator dedicated for that purpose to ensure that she works with the women associations across the region. So women in business associations, provide them with information, provide them with training and sensitization on customs procedures, what is happening with the common market, what are the requirements to be able to move goods across the region, what are the issues with standards. So that sensitization is ongoing. We are taking it step by step. It's an expensive venture, but we've got partners who are standing with us, and we are looking for more partners to be able to take it to a higher level. But we already have Trademark East Africa supporting that platform. We are looking for more partners, and we hope that in the region there's a lot of money for women empowerment. So we hope that people can see the good work we are doing and support it across the region.
Now, traders many a times have complained of not being compensated, especially during conflicts, and we know right now we're heading towards electionary period in the region, and this has always been a problem. We still have traders who complain that they haven't been paid since the post-election violence in Kenya. What are we doing to ensure that they now feel safe and not move their products to other countries where they feel they're safer to operate from?
Yeah, I think we have addressed that issue with the East African community. The EAC will be sending and has already plans to send an observer mission to Kenya to ensure that the election is done in the manner that we desire as a region, so peaceful and fair. But as a private sector, we have been working with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance to ensure that the government is fully on board, the opposition is fully on board. We are working with the judiciary and the IEBC, the Independent Electoral, the Electoral Commission in Kenya. So our message has been, we need peaceful elections, we need free and fair elections. We need transparency to make sure that the election does not flare up violence across the region. So whatever can be done, the security structures need to be in place to ensure that the election is not violent. And the business community, we have involved them. They need to be fully involved to support the work that is going on preaching peace, preaching free and fair elections so that the end product can be good. So the reports we are getting as at now is that all are fully on board. They have signed the commitment to keep peace, and we believe that the election in Kenya will be very peaceful. All parties, both in the opposition and in the government, the leaders will not utter words that can bring violence during the election period.
But maybe it's not just Kenya. Let's look even at South Sudan. Just recently we saw them expel some people, business traders. Do you think it's time to have a policy or a law that is put in place that if this country affects certain businesses, it's time for them to pay back?
I think we need to do that. I think as a region we need to make that decision, that any losses that come as a result of election activities, then the country that is involved or the countries that are involved should be able to compensate the business people. And I think we are going to bring that up to EALA because we have a very close working relationship with the East African Legislative Assembly. They will be changing the assembly. The fourth assembly starts
in June?
In June, yes. So we will be working with them to come up with a legal structure that can help deal with these issues or to work as a deterrent so that the people can work towards peaceful elections.
Yeah, definitely. But another question comes, and how do we get the region to move in terms of easing business and opening space to everyone? Because I know we have seen some governments, or rather some countries, withholding and saying we still want our own people to first grow before you can start up your own business. How do we ease up the business in the region?
I think we need to develop the trust. One of the things that has been very evasive in the region is the issue of trust. We need to know that we all have one objective: to grow the East African community, and there are opportunities which we can share as East Africans and help each other to grow. I think we also have examples within the region, countries that have opened up, and the prosperity can be seen for both the indigenous members of the country and those who have come from the rest of the EAC countries. And I think Rwanda is a good example. There are people from East Africa in Rwanda, and Rwanda is growing. It's performing very well in terms of business growth. So we need to develop that trust. We need to adhere to what we have committed to in the East African community. We need to look at the bigger picture. How do we grow a country? We need to grow it by bringing in the necessary skills, expertise, and the partner states were requested to carry out the manpower surveys. We need to know what skills are available in which country, what is the deficit, so that the universities can also train the same people, but also to allow for movement of those skills across the region, so that we can develop all the countries and bring them to the same level.
If you were to make a call as we sum up our show right now, what would be your call to everyone watching, and rather the governments out there, to ensure that everything will run smoothly, so that we grow together, not only as East Africans, not only as Africans, but everyone in the global world?
I think the World Bank has ranked East Africa as one of the fastest growing regional economic communities in Africa, and that is something to be very proud of. So what my call to the policymakers, to the governments, to the heads of state is to put in a little more energy. They are already doing very well. They have committed themselves. There is no head of state who has said, oh, we are going backwards. We are all, the summit has been very instrumental, providing direction on where we should go. And talking about industrialization, even the last summit recently talked about promoting motor vehicle production in the region, promoting the cotton and textile sector, the leather sector. So we have commitment. So let's just implement what we have committed to do at the regional level, so at the partner states level.
Thank you very much for making time to be with us.
Thank you.
Well, you have been watching the Big Q&A, speaking to the Executive Director of the East Africa Business Council, and she says we're still on the right track. There's no need to panic. The East African region is on the right track. Now do keep it Rwanda Television as we bring you more from us.